All right, let's get into a truly incredible story today. It's about a young girl from Wales whose simple but powerful desire ended up starting a global movement. It's a story all about faith, about pure determination, and a journey that really did change the world in ways she could never, ever have seen coming. So let's just start with this 26 miles. I mean, that's a marathon. Now, I want you to imagine walking that far, but with no shoes on. Not on a nice paved road, but over rough, mountainous country. It's an almost unbelievable thing to even think about. And this really gets us to the heart of the whole thing. Why? What on earth could make a teenage girl go on a journey like that? And the answer? Well, it was simple, but it was also incredibly profound. She just wanted to own a book. To really understand that motivation, we need to meet our main character, Mary Jones. Her story starts in a world that's so different from ours, in a remote and pretty poor corner of Wales way back in the late 18th century. Mary was born right into a life of hardship. Her folks were weavers and they were poor, living in this tiny little stone cottage. Her dad, he struggled with asthma but worked long hours as a laborer. And then, so tragically, he died when he was only 30 years old. So from a really young age, Mary was right there, working alongside her mom, helping with the spinning just to make ends meet. But here's the thing. While Mary's life was full of poverty, her spiritual world was just bursting with life. You see, Wales at that exact time was right in the middle of this massive religious awakening. And this wasn't some quiet, formal faith. No way. It was this passionate revival that was just sweeping across the country. You had these amazing preachers drawing huge crowds. There was this new energy everywhere. And when she was just 8 years old, Mary had this really profound spiritual experience herself, and she became this super devoted member of her local Methodist group. And it was that deep, deep faith that fueled her one great wish. This thought just completely took over her young life. As soon as she learned to read at one of these new pop-up schools, all she wanted was her very own copy of the Bible. She didn't have one, and back then, Bibles were so rare and expensive. So get this. She would walk 2 miles in any kind of weather just to get a chance to read the Bible that was owned by a family on a neighboring farm. 2 miles just to read it. So what do you do when the one thing you want more than anything in the world seems totally impossible to get? Well, if you're Mary Jones, you don't give up. You make a plan. A really ambitious 6-year plan to save every single penny she could find. And this just tells you everything you need to know about her character. For 6 whole years, she carefully, painstakingly saved up. She raised chickens and sold the eggs. She kept beehives and sold the honey. She took on any little sewing or mending job she could find. Her dedication was just absolute. This wasn't some whim. It was the mission of her entire childhood. Finally, when she was about 15, after 6 long years of saving, she had the money. The only person she knew who might, just might, have a Welsh Bible to sell was a preacher, Reverend Thomas Charles. The only problem? He lived in a town called Bala, and it was 26 miles away. And listen, this was not some simple stroll down a country lane. She set off barefoot, trekking over the incredibly rugged and imposing Cader Idris mountain range. It was a long, lonely, and honestly, dangerous journey for a young girl all by herself. But that dream of holding her own Bible in her own hands, well, that pushed her forward with every single step. So after that enormous trek, she finally gets to Bala. She's tired, she's sore, but she's just filled with hope. She finds the home of Reverend Thomas Charles, the man she believed was holding the key to her 6-year-long dream. But when she gets there and tells him her story, she gets the most crushing news. Reverend Charles gently tells her that all the Bibles he had were already sold or promised to other people. Can you just imagine the devastation? 6 years of saving, a 26-mile walk, only to be told it was all for nothing. But as Mary is just standing there, completely heartbroken, something happens to Reverend Charles. He was just so moved by her incredible journey, her patience, her deep, deep desire for God's word, he just couldn't turn her away. He actually found a copy that had been promised to someone else and gave it to her. In fact, he was so inspired he gave her 2 extra copies to take home as a gift. So, Mary's personal mission was complete. She had her Bible. But the impact of her journey? Oh, that was just getting started. Her story didn't end in that little room in Bala. It was about to explode onto the world stage. And this right here is where Mary's walk sparked a revolution. Reverend Charles just couldn't get her story out of his head. He started thinking, if this one girl is so desperate for a Bible, how many thousands more are out there? He took her story to his influential friends in London, people like the famous anti-slavery campaigner William Wilberforce. And in 1804, inspired by this barefoot girl from Wales, they founded the British and Foreign Bible Society with one mission: to make the Bible affordable and accessible to everyone, everywhere. And that society, it still exists today. It's distributed hundreds of millions of Bibles all over the world. But what about Mary? Her story was far from over. And while her faith never wavered, her life was about to be marked by some really profound hardship and sorrow. Mary got married to a weaver, and they had 6 children. But just tragedy followed her family. The awful disease of tuberculosis took her husband and 4 of her children. Out of her 6 kids, only 1, her son John, made it to adulthood. And then, in her later years, in what seems like a final cruel twist of fate, Mary went blind. She couldn't even read the very book she had sacrificed so much to own. But her story comes full circle in the most beautiful way. In her old age, a young woman from her village named Lizzie Rowland would come and visit the blind Mary Jones, and she would sit with her and read aloud from Mary's treasured Bible. The word she had walked so far to get came back to her through the kindness of another person. And this leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Mary Jones's story is just this incredible testament to what one person is willing to do for something they value more than anything. Today, for so many of us, a Bible is easy to get. It's probably sitting on our phones. Her journey really challenges us to ask ourselves, God's word is in our hands? How much value are we giving it?